'Ndrangheta. Most people think the Sicilian mafia runs Italy. They're wrong. There's another organization, older, richer, and far more dangerous. And chances are you've never even heard their name. The 'Ndrangheta has surpassed Sicily's famous Cosa Nostra to become the most powerful organized crime group in Italy and one of the largest in the world. Although this crime syndicate has been around since the late 18th century, the group recently made global headlines, taking center stage at the world's biggest mafia trial in decades. On January 13th, 355 of their suspected members and corrupt officials were charged with a variety of crimes, including narcotics, mafia association, murder, attempted murder, extortion, loan sharking, disclosure of official secrets, and abuse of office. Police across Germany, Italy, and Bulgaria have carried out synchronized raids on 46 buildings for possible connection to this massive organization. The raids were part of an investigation under the leadership of the European Public Prosecutor's Office. But here's what makes them truly terrifying. Alongside narcotics, the crime network is known for several criminal schemes involving money laundering and tax evasion worth millions of dollars, fraud, extortion, high-level corruption, and trafficking in humans and weapons across the globe. That's the first gang. The second one is even more violent. The Camorra. The Camorra is a crime syndicate that originated in the Campania region of Italy in the 18th century. But unlike any mafia you've heard of, the Camorra doesn't have centralized leadership. The organization is said to have somewhere around 111 different clans, and each clan, like a gang, works independently of the other. Think about that for a second. 111 separate criminal organizations, all operating under one name, with no single boss to take down. According to investigative journalist Roberto Saviano, the Camorra is the most influential and violent faction of the Italian mafia. The organization's influence extends to Lombardy, Piedmont, Tuscany, and Emilia-Romagna, and over the years the group has also gained a foothold in the United Kingdom and the US. This decentralized structure makes the Camorra incredibly difficult to dismantle, as taking down one clan barely affects the operations of the other 110. Their violence and willingness to kill has made them feared throughout Italy and beyond. But that's not even the most famous Italian mafia. Cosa Nostra, you know this one, or at least you think you do. Cosa Nostra, the Sicilian mafia, remains one of the most legendary criminal organizations in the world. While it has been somewhat eclipsed by the 'Ndrangheta in recent years, Cosa Nostra's historical influence and global recognition cannot be understated. The organization has been active for over a century and has been the subject of countless books, movies, and documentaries. Their traditional mafia structure, codes of silence, and brutal enforcement methods have become the template by which all other mafias are measured. Despite numerous law enforcement crackdowns and high-profile arrests over the decades, Cosa Nostra continues to operate in Sicily and maintains connections throughout Europe and the United States. Now let's move to Eastern Europe, where things get even darker. Solntseevskaya Bratva. There's one gang in Russia that even the government fears, and its founder didn't start as a criminal mastermind. He started as a waiter. Founded by Sergei Mikhailov, the Solntseevskaya Bratva began operating out of the Solntsevo district of Moscow in the 1980s. The Solntsevo district is located near the MCAT Highway, a major thoroughfare leading to both Ukraine and the Domodedovo International Airport. By controlling these two strategic transportation hubs, the gang established a name for itself in the car import business. Over the years, Solntseevskaya Bratva has been linked to criminal mastermind Semyon Mogilevich as well as esteemed thief Jamal Khashidze, which enhanced its reputation amongst established criminals throughout Europe. But here's where it gets interesting. Sergei Mikhailov, yet who fancied himself as more of a businessman than a Don Corleone mafioso, changed tactics in the 90s and moved the gang into the banking sector. This strategic shift allowed the Bratva to launder money and cultivate relationships with influential Russian billionaires. Today, Solntseevskaya Bratva is involved in nearly every aspect of the Russian underworld, including racketeering, money laundering, prostitution, credit card fraud, arms dealing, human trafficking, and hacking. The organization is also believed to play an integral role in the international cocaine trade, with links to Colombian drug cartels. That's Russia. Now let's talk about the gang that conquered the UK without firing a single shot. Albanian Mafia. For 15 years they watched, they learned, and then they took over. Albanian Mafia manages to carve out a prominent place in the UK criminal landscape in the supply of cocaine to other crime syndicates in the country. For 15 years they have been learning from their masters, evolving from smugglers into sought-after drug suppliers and avoiding violence to rely on the creation of a strong network of alliances. According to the NCA, Albanian criminal groups have also favored the creation of the so-called county lines, capillary networks used to move drugs that run throughout the United Kingdom, moving drugs from large cities into the coastal and inland provinces. These commercial routes are not only used by Albanian criminal groups, but also by local and foreign ones. During October 2021 alone, The police carried out a series of raids that led to the arrest of 1,468 people across the territory, seizing drugs and cash for the value of more than £2 million and confiscating an arsenal consisting of 49 guns. The shameless Albanians are thought to rule the East London cocaine trade with an iron fist. They are behind increasing gang violence as they vie to leapfrog their rivals in a bloodthirsty turf war. But the next gang makes the Albanians look tame, because this one works directly with the government. Serbian Mafia. What happens when the mafia and the government become the same thing? You get Serbia. The Serbian Mafia in Scandinavia is an organized crime group in Sweden and Denmark. The foundations of the gang began during the mass immigration of Yugoslav guest workers to Sweden in the 1970s. Its power base is in the cities of Stockholm and Copenhagen, and its territory is in Malmö and Gothenburg, among other cities in western Sweden. As the saying goes, mess with the mafia, mess with the government. That is especially true in the case of the Serbian Mafia. In Serbia, the mafia and the government work together closely. The Yugoslav intelligence service hired Serbian mobsters to do hits for them and started this relationship in the 1960s. Yugoslavia hired the mafia to go after Croatian ultranationalist terrorists who were planning to attack Yugoslavia back in the days. Top mobsters and police generals would become godfathers because they thought they were basically doing the same job. People thought of them as mobsters, but in state circles, they were top Secret Service agents acting like mobsters. Then in 2020, something horrifying was discovered. On August 3rd, two strong and tattooed men in their 30s posed in front of their latest trophy, a naked man with his feet and fists bound. The man's head was raised toward the camera by one of these men wearing black gloves. The discovery of the so-called House of Horrors, where Serbian mobsters tortured their rivals, proved that the mafia is willing to resort to the brutality of Mexican cartels in order to control the Balkan cocaine trade. They received significant media attention in Sweden, especially during the 1990s, thanks to flashy top-ranking members. In the late 1990s, disagreements over money, territory, and leadership caused a degree of infighting within the Serb mafia in Scandinavia. Soon after one boss's murder, the next boss was shot 30 times and killed in the center of Stockholm in 2003. Besides heroin, the Serb mafia is active in trafficking large quantities of cocaine and marijuana through Sweden and Denmark. The Danish government labeled the Serb mafia as having a leading role in smuggling heroin into Denmark, surpassing the Albanians and Turks in the Copenhagen drug market. Now let's talk about a family that controlled 80% of Europe's heroin. Kelmendi family, one man, one family, 80% of Western Europe's heroin supply. Thanks to Yugoslav tactics with the mafia, Albania received countless opportunities to follow along, sticking their toes in organized crime. Albanian local mobs went from being foot soldiers in more powerful gangs to running one of the largest operations in Europe, smuggling out roughly 80% of the region's heroin in the last 30 years. The capabilities these mobs possessed were highlighted by Nasser Kelmendi. He was the head of the largest heroin smuggling operation in Western Europe before his sentencing in 2018. Kelmendi and his sons were notorious for their lavish spending habits, including purchasing 10 cars annually, owning more property than a typical family needs, and engaging in monthly interest rates of over 10% through loan sharking. The family was in charge of trafficking drugs from Afghanistan to Turkey and then to Europe. So Kelmendi was hard to catch as he moved around Eastern Europe, expanding his mafia empire in the Balkans. He invested a lot of his illegal money into many legal businesses, owning hotels and truck businesses, to name a few. As his fame grew, so did the value of his network. Kelmendi created close relations with some of Kosovo's top politicians and several powerful businessmen. At this point, the mob boss became something of a dangerous player, and the U.S. Treasury Department added Kelmendi to the Kingpin list in 2012. With him safely behind bars, we can confidently claim that the Kelmendi family is one of the most threatening criminal organizations in the world. But the next gang doesn't deal drugs. They pull off something far more spectacular. The Pink Panthers, $500 million, 370 heists, 35 countries, and nobody can stop them. The Pink Panthers are the largest, most successful gang of diamond thieves in the world, credited with 370 heists worth over $500 million. The gang is composed of networks of teams, many of whom are ex-Yugoslavs with military training who fought in the Bosnian Wars. The loose group of thieves is known to combine expert planning and military discipline. But it is their daring heists that set them apart from other thieves and which earned them the nickname the Pink Panthers. The Pink Panthers are responsible for heists in 35 countries, with specialists in everything from alarms to safecracking to stealing cars. Their operations are meticulously planned, often involving elaborate disguises, split-second timing, and audacious methods. Unlike traditional organized crime groups focused on drugs or extortion, the Pink Panthers have perfected the art of high-value theft, targeting luxury jewelry stores and diamond exchanges across Europe and beyond. Their military background gives them an edge in planning and executing operations with precision that would make any special forces team proud. The combination of Balkan ruthlessness and military expertise makes them nearly impossible to stop. That's impressive. But the next gang doesn't just control crime, they control an entire country. Bulgarian Mafia. Other countries have the Mafia. In Bulgaria, the Mafia has the country. The Bulgarian Mafia is the latest example of how criminal organizations seize control over a country. The Kapitan Andreevo border checkpoint between Bulgaria and Turkey has been well known for a long time as a place where drugs would enter the European Union. Bulgaria's notorious corruption at the border with the Mafia has been a reason why it hasn't been allowed to join the Schengen passport-free travel area for a long time. Many Bulgarians may not agree with the idea, but Vasil the Skull Bozhkov, who's said to be the head of the Bulgarian Mafia and the country's richest man, doesn't look like he does. Bozhkov is an entrepreneur with an estimated net worth of $1.5 billion. He is often shown smirking or sitting back with a cigar, which gives him an air of unstoppable power. The name's origin is unknown, but a leaked 2009 report on Bulgaria's most wanted criminals shows a colorful cast of Bulgarian mob bosses. Maybe Bozhkov is called the Skull because his facial bones are so prominent, or maybe it's because his eyes look like they're going to pop out of his face, or it could be something worse. Bozhkov, 61 years old, made a lot of money when Bulgaria switched from communism to capitalism in 1989 and currently owns a holding company with over 30 businesses and many subsidiaries, including the Euro football lottery. The depth of mafia control over Bulgaria's economy and politics makes it one of the most corrupted systems in Europe. That's 9 gangs. The last one is currently fighting the bloodiest gang war in modern European history. Skalyarshi and Kavach clans, 41 deaths, multiple countries, and a war so brutal, one gang leader was too scared to eat prison food. Jovan Vukotic was the leader of a criminal group that terrorized the Balkans for many years, but as he sat in a Serbian jail in late 2019, he was so afraid of being killed that he had his girlfriend bring him food from outside. His cautiousness may have saved his life. In December, 4 men were arrested and are now being investigated for allegedly pretending to be police officers in order to poison the food she was bringing him. Sources who know about the case say the men were hired by a rival gang called the Kavach. Vukotic is one of the 2 leaders of the Skalyarshi, who are fighting with the Kavach in a bloody war. Since 2015, at least 41 people have died because of the rivalry between these 2 Montenegrin clans. The second leader was Igor Dedovic, who was killed by gunmen as he ate dinner with his wife and children in an Athens restaurant at the age of 43. A secret Serbian intelligence report gave him an address in Kotor, Montenegro, but he had not lived there for years before he died. This conflict represents one of the bloodiest gang wars in modern European history, with assassinations taking place across multiple countries including Serbia, Montenegro, Greece, and Spain. The violence is so extreme that it has drawn comparisons to cartel wars in Latin America, showing that European organized crime can be just as brutal and unforgiving as any criminal organization in the world. Now you know the 10 most dangerous gangs operating in Europe today. From Italian mafias that have existed for centuries to Balkan clans tearing each other apart in the streets, Europe's criminal underworld is more powerful and more violent than most people realize.